everybody. Hello, hello. Hope you're having a fantastic day and your week is going well. Welcome to Trades Lady Happy Hour. This is this week's episode of a ongoing weekly show where each week I meet with another incredible tradeswoman from all over the US, Canada. We've had New Zealand, Australia. I'm trying to think of other countries that we've had. But the idea is to each week introduce you all to another incredible woman out there kicking ass, taking names in the automotive and kind of automotive adjacent trades. There's a ton of amazing women out there. And this is about sharing their stories and shining a light on them. So I'm excited this week to be joined by Tiffany Kelly of Tiffany Kelly Racing. She's kind of a Jane of all trades in the automotive industry. She does a ton of different things. Got the bug for the automotive world pretty early on in her life. She's done wrenching, she's done motorcycle racing, she's done automotive racing, she's done car building, she has a driving school. I think she's done a little bit of everything from what I can tell. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that I am not even scratching the surface on, but I'm sure she will make sure I'm corrected and know all of the incredible things that she is up to. So hopefully she'll be joining us here in just a moment. I'm going to see if she's in the room. I see her. She's joined. Yay. There she is. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, perfect.
Okay, cool. I had a momentary freak out right before getting on live with you tonight because I'm in Florida right now. And I had my tripod, but I couldn't find my phone adapter for my tripod. And so I'm tearing everything in the hotel room apart. And I'm like, what am I going to do? But I found it.
Or something, just make your own.
I know, seriously. I'm like, this is going to be a long interview if I have to hold my phone myself.
Yeah. Oh, no, I've definitely had those moments. I'm trying to make sure this. But my sister introduced me to one of these, I don't know, I got it on eBay and it clips everything and it holds your phone and it's like a little snake kind of thing. Oh,
yes.
Best thing in the world. Definitely when working on cars or anything, you can clip it to anything.
Yes, absolutely. Well, welcome. Cheers. It's really, really nice to meet you.
I finally I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna drink my wild sour.
What is it?
It's wild sour. They're sour beer.
Okay.
And so they taste I love sour Skittles, and this is basically reminds me of drinking a sour Skittle.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
You can only have one or two at a time. Trust me. You can go fast too.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. I'm so excited that you said yes to this. We've not met in person that I'm aware of, but I've heard amazing things about you from so many people, including Ronnie from Garage Squad. Was like, you have to meet her. She's so amazing.
I think he's just really, really nice. He's just because he said the same thing about you. It was the same way. He's like, you need to meet her. Oh my gosh, you need to meet her. I'm going to tell her about you. And he's so
I feel like he was trying to set up a play date. He's like, you two need to hang out.
Right. You guys are going to be best friends.
Exactly.
Yeah, baseball.
So let's catch everybody else who's watching up on things. And would you do just a brief introduction on who you are, what you do now, and then we'll kind of go back in time and tell your story?
Yeah, definitely. Tiffany Kelly. So I'm sure basically I'm in the car scene. I definitely am I would say a road course racer for sure. I grassroots technically trying to go for a pro seat. I do all of it with my husband though. So it's kind of we call it Team Kelly Racing. So it's something we joined together. Gradually got into, always worked on cars together, got into because he was a mechanic and then I've also. But we've worked on it together and then we've kind of grown into stuff. So we ended up building and business out of fabricating track cars. And also we ended up starting a truck driving school at our local track over it's technically, I'm in Nebraska and the track's in Iowa. So it's just 20 minutes across the bridge.
Okay. No.
But overall, yep, that's kind of and then we're kind of known just for everything we build for racing. So motorcycles, shifter cars, cars,
Nice.
Cars, the main one, but it's kind of in a nutshell, if I can put high level.
That's a very big nutshell, but I know how that struggle is real. I get it. So how did all of this start for you? How did you get involved in the automotive world?
It was kind of when I was a little girl, or I would say even a little girl, yeah, because my mom was always like, "What's your problem?" Like I always was like, bicycles, got my first bike. She got us one of those Barbie Jeeps, my sisters and I would like try
Nice.
to, yes, drive it around. But I would do the thing where I would like see how fast I can do it, put my little sister in it and put something on the pedal and like have it run off things, Like I was always like playing with like all the little toys and trucks and like go to McDonald's, you're like, I don't want the Barbie, I want the little Tonka truck.
Right.
Give that. So I don't know where that came from really, because no, my family, nobody was really into cars or anything.
Oh,
It
interesting.
was, yeah, I know. That's the thing. It was just, and then, but there were some guys who lived up the street. So in high school, it was only like 10 houses up from my house. It was like the house that everybody went to after work and worked on their cars.
Okay.
And I would just pop in I'd pretty much that girl and just like show up and be like, I want to learn. And I don't think I just ever went away. And they adapted me into their group. And we would just work on cars together all the time.
That's awesome. So it's just like this innate thing that you just were drawn to. I love it.
Yeah.
I lo
They were just always so cool. Everything, the sound, the looks, and I think I was more into aesthetics of it when I was
Sure,
younger too. Like,
sure.
not as much as like, I'm just like, oh, that's just cool. I don't know anything about it, but it's awesome. But
Right.
definitely over time, when you get to know it, then I even actually got more intrigued. Like, the more the stuff behind it, you're like, wow, this is actually really
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of how it went for me too in that sense. Like I thought cars were cute or cool looking and then started learning about them. I'm like, this is flipping awesome. But same thing, didn't grow up around cars at all. It was definitely not something that people expected for me. So I totally relate to that. Although I was not Hot Wheeling and giving my mom a heart attack like it sounds like you were. So going fast was always a thing for you, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, like the first time I bought a motorcycle, it was behind her back, and it was I got so much trouble, but like so worth it. Like, and it was the little one too. I saved up all summer long for it, like with my little
Nice.
internship, and I was like every day I put like a little money aside. And it was a little Ninja, a little 500 at the time, and
Nice. I was gonna
I
ask.
loved it.
Awesome. And so almost gave your mom a heart attack. You got in trouble for it. How have your parents been about this journey of yours?
The crazy part is I still don't think to this day, like my dad, I feel like he sometimes just doesn't get it still, but I mean, he appreciates it. Like, I'm
Okay.
not trying to be, sometimes I really do wish, I hope if my dad doesn't hear this, but like, sometimes I wish he really was like the car guy so we could like work on the car together, but it was never like that. So he appreciates it and he like supports, like, he's just whatever makes me happy kind of thing.
That's cool.
Yeah. So how about you though with your parents then? You said you didn't grow up around it. So how did that work out?
Yeah. I think it's kind of the same thing. My dad always appreciated cars, definitely from an aesthetic standpoint. I remember going to like little neighborhood car shows, little community car shows, and we'd, look at the cars and he would know all the years and the names, but he wasn't the guy who worked on cars in his garage on the weekend. Like he gets mad when I say that because he corrects me and says that he does know how to do oil changes and he can work on cars a little bit. And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Right.
But for the most part, they really didn't understand where I came from or how this happened, and they respect it. They are happy for me. I don't think they get it.
Yeah. I'm sure
And,
you wanted me to go down the path of being a doctor or something, but I
right.
just can't
Did
help
they
who you
ever
are.
try to convince you out of it? I know my parents kind of did, and then they came around. Did your parents ever try to convince you out?
A little bit when I was working an internship at a body shop, and there was a little like the money behind it because at the time I was making nothing. Internships, you don't, and
Well,
then
yeah.
yeah, and like it was, I definitely learned that really quick, and you do a lot of labor, so it was kind of like, well, I don't know. So they were like, well, if you really want to make money, so. I did get out of the business for a while and went to for college. I kind of learned really quick because I was doing the internship my senior year of high school to work in a body shop. I was doing auto body, but then I learned quickly I had to pay for college. So I was like, I got a little bartending gig, and I was like, wow, I can make in one night like like what I'm making in my internship right now. So
Yeah.
I did get a business. I got some business majors to appease
Okay.
my parents. Basically said, hey, I'll do this, and then I was like, my goal was actually to own my own shop. So that was like. I'll get the majors, own my own shop, and then kill two birds with one stone so I can do what I like.
There you go, which is smart.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of you own your own business now. Do you still feel the desire to own your own shop at some point? Is that still on the list?
It
I mean, you kind
is,
of,
and so it's do it.
No, I said you're kind of doing that with building custom cars for people, right? So you kind of do have your own shop,
Yeah,
right?
we do have a friend shop that we work with, so we call him Dean the Legend Palmer, the legend. And I say that because he's been in the automotive industry and he's on, we call it Team Kelly, our Team Kelly Racing. And he has a big shop in his house, like garage style house, like one of those, like you walk out and it's like the whole,
All
like a lift.
garage.
And
Yeah.
so that's where we do everything, and that's where we've been trying to expand. But the crazy part is I actually still work full time on top of everything, so I feel like I'm living like
Oh,
three lives.
good Lord. What are you doing full time?
HR director, making those parents happy.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, you are doing a crap ton.
Yeah, and if anybody knows, and you know for sure how much car work takes. Like when someone's like, "Hey, can you do this for me, this project?" You're just like, "Oh, that's so many like hours than you think." Like,
Yeah. So, wow. Okay, I didn't realize you were working a full time, like non-automotive job at the same time. What industry are you doing HR in?
I always hate to mention, I'm in the
Oh,
it's an it's an election company, and
oh,
the only reason just because all the world is, I'm like, I'm just in HR. I don't touch anything. I don't have anything to do with it.
just human resources. Leave me out of this.
Yes, yeah, like that's the
Wow.
industry.
How long have
Hmm
you been doing HR for?
About 5 years now, which I never thought I would get into either. I know but
Fascinating.
you know, the one reason is because it helps pay for all my racing
Right.
and funds all the racing cars and building race cars is
Yeah.
expensive. So,
So do you feel like because you have all of these irons in the fire, you've got, and I know we're jumping around here, but there's God, I have so many questions for you. With the racing school and with the race team and with building cars for other people and doing that, is the hope that you'll be able to do that full time and not have to do HR, or do you feel like you're going to balance it all out forever and one's going to support the other?
this is like a conversation that happens between my husband and I constantly. So like we're
Okay.
getting to the point where I'm like, I want him to do it full time because we're actually both working. So he's a forklift mechanic full time as well.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, like we like work during the day, get off work, build our project cars and do the school. So at least the school is only like once or twice a month though, so that's nice. But it's just
Okay.
building up to it. But
Yeah.
we also have the racing that we do, and a schedule for racing. You have to be in this part, Chicago, or your Mid America, or
Right.
Road America. Um,
Please tell me
it's
you don't also have children.
no, no, and
Okay.
that's the one thing
So I'm
I
like,
will
if you're
say.
balancing that too, I just need to put a cape on you right now because
Oh, I would be like, gosh, I should go for a presidency. Like, yes, because yeah, and that's why when women have children, I even say, I'm like, I know I could not do it. I'd have to sacrifice something because there's just no way.
there's only so
I
many
have,
hours in the day. Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, and you only get so much sleep. I have three fur babies. I do have my three dogs,
Okay.
and
I love it. I'm with you, although I've got three cats. Well, two and a half cats. We're gonna not talk about the third cat that's trying to adopt me right now, but that's another story. But yes, I feel you.
okay.
There's not enough hours in the day. There just aren't. I don't know how you're doing all of that. That's insane.
Definitely, I definitely could be. So this last weekend was the first weekend we've had off. We were going to go practice for some shifter car race we have in a couple weeks, and
Okay.
it was the first weekend we canceled, and we both I think didn't know what we were doing with ourselves. I was like, I should be doing this and this. And it was like the one time I took some time and just like laid around, in your PJs and
Yeah.
don't do anything. And I
Yeah.
almost felt like I was like, oh, I should be doing this. I haven't done this in like 6 months. Like you rarely get a downtime, and
Yeah. And then we don't
but
know what to do with ourselves when we do.
yeah, but you have to take your hours like this. Like this, I was like, oh, talked about cars and have a drink and just, sure,
No,
I'll move
this is
things
like
around.
the best like fun work thing that I have. I'm like, I can do this and have it be work and it's fun. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that at the end of the day is like, I can do all this because I love it all though. Like I don't have, like I definitely have moments where I'm like, okay, I'm really tired. Like I wish I could push that. But the fact loving all of it, like the car builds, I love it. And just the racing and then even the HR, there's a really crazy part where I really actually like that industry too.
Like, sometimes I feel like they all fulfill kind of different parts of our brain, right? And like different parts of our personality. And like I was wrenching for I don't know, 7 years as a dealership tech and like it was great, but it only fulfilled a portion of the things that I wanted to fulfill. And so each kind of additional thing fulfills a different need. So it is kind of all of it, and like therein lies the challenge, right? Of doing all of
Yeah,
it.
and I
But
think you don't get burnt out as much just switching up like that too.
yeah, you don't burn out. You get physically exhausted, but you don't burn out. It's like a
Yeah.
different thing.
There's a difference. Yeah.
There is.
Well, I like I don't want to get sick of like I know that's my one fear nagging at the back of my brain. If I went full time just cars, I'm a little scared. I'm like, will it ruin the passion for it
Yeah,
if it's too much?
yeah.
And,
I get that. I Knowing what I know of you thus far, I can't imagine you would get tired of this. You keep diving in deeper and deeper, so I can't imagine that. But
so, yeah, and you can relate 100%. So.
yes, totally. So I want to talk about your racing a little bit because you went to body, like you were taking body shop, auto body in high school, did your internship there. When did this transition back into stuff happen? You went to college, you got your business degree. What happened next? How did you get into racing?
Yeah, I met my husband in Nebraska. So I over after college too, I did the whole like I'm gonna travel the world. So I did that like for 4 years. And
Nice.
yeah, I'm definitely a random, like all over the place.
I love
But
it.
I wanted to get it out of my system, be like, hey, get well-rounded.
Yeah.
So I ended up back here in Nebraska where I'm at because my family's here. And after traveling, I didn't have anything. I had like a suitcase of clothes. So I was like,
Right.
okay. And then, yeah. And of course, shortly after, I'm like, I'm not going to stay here. I'm just, just getting feet on the ground. I'm not going to stay here. Well, then, of course, I run into my husband. I meet him. And it's because the first thing I did when I came back to the States, I went out and bought a motorcycle. I was like, I got to get back into cars. I loved it. And I took it out to a gas station and I was like, I'm going to meet some people because I knew this one that people meet at. And he was the only person who came up to me and talked to me. And I was like, hey, and big car guy, like all about racing and stuff. And I hadn't tried any of the actual racing, like other than, the street stuff you do, like you think you're Fast and Furious cool.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, we all go through that phase. He's like, you need to try this autocross with me with this car. And I'm like, sure, let's do that. And then I think that was like where all of a sudden, like we did that together and he was like, wow, actually you could be good at this. And then, yeah. And we escalated to a track. Like we went to a track and he's like, let's try road course. Cause he'd been doing autocross for years. I'm like, yeah, that would be super cool. And we get these stock cars that we had and we're like, let's do it. And then I swear, because he's super as competitive as I am, we thought it would be like, okay, we're like, oh, we'll just go there once. No, it just escalated from there. It was like, next thing I know, we're getting our time trial license. Then I know we're going wheel to wheel. Then we're like ripping interior out of our cars. And we're like,
It's an addictive drug. This is why I'm not allowed to go to the track. Like I will not, when I was riding motorcycles consistently and like every day, and I wouldn't allow myself to take my bike to the track. I will not allow myself to take a car to the track. I know that I will get addicted and I do not need any more expensive hobbies. Like
knowing that you can do your own work and build your own stuff, oh, addicting. Because I think a lot of people are just like, well, I don't know what to do. And so then they have someone else build it for them, or they just, they're just like, but like when you can make it better yourself and you can go back to your garage and be like, okay, I'm going to change this and this will be more competitive. Oh, addicting. It's so addicting.
So you'd done auto body, but you hadn't really learned mechanical stuff in school, in high school, I'm assuming. So you start getting into racing, you're getting the bug for it. Where did that mechanical knowledge start coming from? Was that from your husband? Was that from learning as you guys went and figured stuff out?
It's kind of a mix of both. Definitely from him at first. Like he's just, and I'll admit, I was a little overwhelmed. Like I almost thought I knew cars until then also the mechanical side gets hit and you're like, oh, I did not know all that. Like, it's a lot.
It is.
So,
It's way more than most people realize. Even people who work on cars, especially if they work on older cars, have no idea what's involved with the newer cars. It's a lot.
fuel injection and everything, and then you start getting into turbos and oh yeah.
And all the computers and yeah.
Well, and that's kind of where it all kind of started stemming because he was like, he got into, he wanted to tune his car. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could plug in a laptop and stuff. Like, there's just so much. And it did start with that. And he taught me a lot. But then as we went, when we were getting competitive in the racing, we wanted to start doing engine swaps and everything. And that's where I was like, oh, okay, you have to teach me all this. So we wanted to do it together. And that was the other thing. It was kind of his thing. He's like, if you're going to race with me, you have to learn how to do your own stuff because there's only like one of me. And, at the end of the day, really, I couldn't sit here and be like, you do yours. And then when you have time, can you do mine? And
Right.
Yeah, but for me, I love learning like how things function just because then when you're driving this stuff or like when something happens and I'm like, okay, why is this happening to this? Or why did that just like cut out with fuel? Like what's going on? And that was, I think I really dove into that. The biggest challenge, wiring. I took on a huge wiring project this last year because it was the year prior. I had all these wiring issues in my race season. Couldn't, and of course, whenever you get a gremlin, like a wire gremlin, you can never figure it out, right? And it's something super simple. You'll change like everything else. Like literally had an entire season where I changed like almost every part of my harness, everything, but it ended up being something on the harness at the end of the day. So after that, I was like, okay, I got to learn. And so this winter, I built like my entire mil spec wiring harness for my car for this year. And
Nice. That's
um,
awesome.
thank you. But you know what? I'll admit, I took some class, like there's, I don't know if you've heard of them, HP Academy on Instagram.
I have heard of it. Yeah.
They're really like good at like kind of teach. So I like bought a couple of their videos
Oh,
and I sat
nice.
there with a notepad.
Oh,
And
good. I love that. I'm so glad you brought that up because I feel like that's the question that I get asked all the time. Like, okay, I don't want to become a mechanic, but how do I learn more? Or I'm older and I want to get into the industry or I want to learn stuff. Like, or maybe I'm not ready to commit to go into tech school, but I do want to do more hands-on stuff. Like, where do I go? How do I learn stuff? And that's a great resource that I forget about all the time. That's fantastic. How does that work? I don't want to like necessarily make this do a plug about them, but like how was that experience for you, and how does it work for people to be able to do that?
oh my gosh, amazing actually. I was really impressed. No, I was like they're because they always have those cute little accents too. And so like they're kind of fun to watch because like they're like Australian or whatever. They're like they make it fun. But they basically when you buy the course, they'll have it laid out so when you sign in, you can just pick whatever one you want to. And they actually open to feedback. So if you have any questions, you can like send them in
Nice.
and then I can stop and pause. And I'm one of those people too, like I kind of have to digest it. Like my husband kind of knew a lot of the like this many amps for this. And I was like, wait, what? What was that again? Like how many amps to that? Like what wiring goes to what? And so I could pause it though, and I could take notes. And they made it very simplistic where it was understandable. Like that was nice, and they had some visuals. So the video showed him doing like a nice simple one with wiring, and
Yeah.
they had the different stages of how far you wanted to go. Like I obviously wanted to go the extreme mil spec, full harness, which like, but
That's
they
your
do have
competitive
the
nature
different.
coming out. I get it. It's cool. You're like, I'm gonna do the biggest.
Right? But afterwards, I have to admit, that whole wiring harness this year, no issues, no gremlins, worked perfect.
Cheers. That's
Right,
fantastic. And
exactly.
wiring terrifies people. So that's huge for you to dive in and take that on and do that and succeed at it. That's awesome. I love it.
Well, I think I did what most people do. Like we all like if there's something in the car that you don't want to do, like I kind of always just kind of walked away. Like, oh, you got that? All right, cool. Like I'll be over here, change this tire. Like I almost like would block it off. Like I'm like, don't want to know. I don't want to. But then I was like, why am I doing that? Like I could learn so much more. Like I actually really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would once I
Isn't that
started
funny?
learning everything about it. And then yeah,
Sometimes I think it's the things that we are most scared of that we then wind up loving the most.
yeah. And then some stuff clicks too. I'm like, well, that's why that does that. Oh, that was why it's drawing power there. Oh,
I love it. I love it. What a fun journey. So what kind of racing do you do now?
oh, road course racing,
Okay.
wheel to wheel. I get super stoked about it because I think it is just so fun. Like, it's always challenging and the best people. I think all racing's great. So I just want to make sure everybody knows I have nothing against drag
She's
racing.
not knocking on anybody else. This is just her thing.
Yeah, this is just one of, but it's road course racing kind of, I always say it's like the lower of Formula One because they do the little road course. I'm just in your everyday car and we just build them to go a little bit faster. And so I race with Grid Life. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're
I
kind
don't.
of,
I'm
you
not
ever,
very much in the racing scene. I
oh,
apologize. So
no,
educate me and educate the followers. Everybody
Grid
watching.
Life, I have one of the best race organizations I ever know. They make everything like these huge events, and then they'll have drifting, and they'll have road course racing, and then they'll have a huge concert and a party afterwards. So
Okay.
they just hit all the things that you want
Right.
to, and they're all about vibes, like have the best vibes and just bring everybody of all sorts. They want to have everybody feel inclusive, so that's
I
kind
love
of
it.
nice. I see, and that's one thing, like even with our wheel to wheel series. So it's wheel to wheel, largest wheel to wheel series I've ever raced with because it's power to weight. So you can build whatever you want as long as you're within the class rules. So that has been the challenge. you only can have so much horsepower to weight. And so you can figure out whatever engine you want. And that's kind of where our big builds came from because it was like, okay, you only can have 200 horsepower, but torque's unlimited. So instead of my F, that's why I was like, let's drop a J in there. Like, let's get all the torque we can get. And so it's kind of cool. You just see all these cool builds that people come up with and then where they work better. And that's been an exciting challenge about it.
Very cool. What car do you drive that you're racing?
I have a Honda S2000 that I dropped a J35A4 in, which is
Nice.
the minivan engine.
Fascinating. But you're going for lower horsepower, kind of.
Well, it actually is more. I just detuned it, so I had to learn about tuning too. That's kind of a thing I am not an expert at it, but I will say there's people like I some PFI Speed at Brent. Do you know from heard of?
Not personally, I've heard of the company, but
Like the nicest guy in the entire tuning industry. I feel like he's one of
nice.
those people like everybody just loves him because he's just super nice and he's like great at tuning, but he was someone we paired up with and he's helped us with it. So like detuning. So the car had more horsepower, but we just detuned it, but at least so we could still keep all the torque in it and stuff. And that was kind of
Interesting.
yeah.
That's a little foreign to me, the whole idea of detuning something.
You know, it is a little rough sometimes where I'm like, man, like we're putting a whole new engine because like, but it's been kind of fun, just like the different people you find out who use these engines. So that's we paired up with Fuel Tech. I had mentioned Fuel Tech is known in the drag world. They're ECUs and they're all about that. But we were the first people to pair up with them who put their ECU on a J series.
Okay,
So that
nice.
was kind of cool to be the first ones for that. And they're like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, let's pair up with you guys. And they've been able to like let us have some betas that we've got to test. And it's just got it.
Nice.
Then you get a phone call with them, and it's kind of nice to hear like so many people who are passionate about like making it better. It's kind of cool to
Yeah.
hear in the builds.
Yeah. There's so much fascinating stuff out there. And it's like just I feel like I'm just even scratching the surface of the industry and I'm 20 some odd years into it. Like I'm learning every day. Like I'm learning a tremendous amount from you right now. Like there's just so much. It's incredible. And it's really cool to see your enthusiasm for, diving in deeper and deeper and deeper into this industry as you keep going. I love it.
You can imagine picking your brain. I bet you, I bet you're not giving yourself enough credit. I'm sure you know so much where I'd be like, oh, I don't know that.
I mean, it's like any of us, right? Like I know a lot about this, right? Like I know about this piece, and then you start talking to me about drag racing. I'm like, don't know, not I don't know. Like, there's a ton that I know, but there's a ton I don't know. Not
That
a
is
great
true.
deal.
I definitely, I could say I do like, I try to be the jack of all trades and learn, but I do the same thing. Even the drag racing scene, I try to get to know a little of it, like working with Brent. And I'm like, why do you guys do that with your, like, but it's interesting just to see what people do and the builds they'll do just to get like so competitive. I think that's where I really enjoy the fabrication behind it. What people will come up with to be competitive is like my favorite. I'm like, that is
Yeah.
the best idea ever. When I look at something, I'm like, so creative. Like,
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Faye because I'm out in Florida. We were filming our last couple of episodes of All Girls this week, and we were having a conversation kind of about that just last night about how it's the problem solving that I think is what is so like the biggest appeal of working on cars, whether it's fabrication, mechanical, wiring, like whatever it is. Like it's this problem solve. It's a puzzle, and it's a cool thing, and we like problem solving in general, whatever that is. So it's an interesting thing.
it's always fun for the first 6 to 8 hours you're problem solving, but then there's a point where you're like, I'm over
Right.
this. Like, is there an answer anywhere?
But then there's that satisfaction, right? Because you get past the fun part, then you get to the I'm banging my head against the wall and I want to shoot myself, and why the hell did I take this job on, and why am I doing this for my livelihood? um, and then there's the moment where you figure it out and you are the most powerful person on the planet and you feel amazing, like high on life. So
Just name the industry right there. All
right.
the like
Yes.
every project I get into, yeah, there's like it's like the high, a little bit of low, then you come back, you're like, okay, I did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we keep going back for more because we're gluttons for punishment.
Yes, yes, but super enjoyable.
So how I don't want to make any presumptions about your age or how long you've been into the industry, and I'm not going to ask you to disclose that unless you're comfortable with it. But Do you feel like you've noticed any difference in the industry from when you first started coming up in it until now? How have you been received on the like racing side versus the auto body side? Because you've kind of touched in a couple of different areas, motorcycle versus automotive. Like, can you kind of touch on some of that in your experiences?
Definitely. I think like when you're way, way younger, like when I was in high school starting, I'm gonna say way, way younger because I'm aging myself right now. Like, um, everybody's super helpful and they kind of just give you like the simplest little things and they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, this is how this goes. And I felt like I never really got like the extreme. I do think it wasn't until like I started really getting into car, like racing in the cars and started doing my own stuff where people started being like, okay, I'll teach you more. Like, can you take this on? But I will admit, I almost had to beg for it a little way. Like sometimes I feel like people are like, it's a, it's I'm like, no, I'll watch the YouTube video. Like, just let me do it. Like, I'll figure it out. Like, um, I definitely have earned respect building my own stuff though. Over time, I feel like I've definitely, there's like a layer of it over the years, but I think you have to put your time in and just learn like anything, like any kind of experience you do, right? Like you have to fail a couple times and uh but racing wise, I definitely over the years, I could say when I first started racing, nobody took me serious. I've said this once before, like I would do something super simple and everybody would give me like kudos. They're like, "Oh, good job. Like so good." I'm like, "I just started the car." Like, you know, but
Oh. That's such a
yeah.
that's such oh my God. Like I feel like in all these happy hours, I don't feel like we've touched on that topic at all. And that is such a thing. Like it's like this low expectation that when you like manage to take a bolt out, they're like, oh, good job. Like I'm 5 years old or something, right?
Change your own oil. Woo! Like, oh my God, you're so great. And I'm like, no, like,
Oh, that's
like,
amazing.
but there is like, there's that level, right? You get into the different levels,
Yeah.
and it is crazy once you get past the one level, then all of a sudden, I feel like, and then I don't know if there's that intermediate level. I feel like you go from like, taking a one bolt out and then it's all of a sudden like this carburetor over here and you're like, oh man, like where did we go, like I can we catch me up, like it, but it's nice when you start getting to that level and I do can tell like the way language, but I think sometimes too probably I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe my face changes too in the beginning to just like what like, like and then now like it's like yeah, like I'm just deer in headlights. Like I'm like, do not. I got like a radiator out of that sentence, and then everything else was like way over my head. So like maybe some of it is just your own self, how you come off. So people are like, okay,
Right.
you're gonna comprehend this and not waste my time.
Fair.
And probably like
Fair. All right.
I
I
do
love
with
it.
the driving. I do with students. I'll admit, like there's a level like students will come to, and I know it's their some people it's their first time in a car ever, and they don't even they just move the wheel. They're like, "Wee!" I'm like, "All right, that's called understeer." Like, but that's the leveling. Like even with the mechanic side, you start, and then yet once
Right.
you can comprehend and tell, like I can see a student who I can see it in their like the way they react to the car and how they're, and then they're like understand the physics behind it. Then I'll be like, okay, let's get deeper. So I think that's what naturally progressively happens in the car scene and like
Yeah. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think that was an interesting point you made too about like there's no intermediary almost. It seems like there's the beginning stage and then suddenly you're deep in it. Like I teach these basic car care classes and then people want the next level and I'm like, well, the next level is like 50 times more complicated than the first level. Like there's no level two. It's like level one, level 1,000, you know?
yeah, and it's like you have to go out and do your own research before we can talk that thousand level. Like
Right.
I'm gonna need you to go out and just take a couple, like just read a couple or take watch some YouTube videos. I swear by YouTube. I think it's the best educational. Not every video, but like
Right.
it is.
Some of it's not good. Don't pay attention to everything on YouTube.
That
But
is good advice. Yeah, and like don't listen to everybody, but there is a lot of things that you can just learn to get yourself like the base knowledge of things. I think on a lot of those videos to kind
yeah.
of get to there and
Yeah.
just trying things, honestly.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely. So what are you in your driving school, what are you teaching? Are these like beginning driving school stuff? Are you doing advanced stuff too? Like tell me more about driving school.
Yeah, so with the track, they like to have people they say certified, so they're safe on the course driving with other courses. So mainly the first is like we just teach people like the main like track exit, track entrance, like what's an apex, corner out. It's basically the beginning and safety on a track, like how to do a point by and everything. So then if you went to other tracks, these are like the basics. So you could take your car and have like a daily
Okay,
track. We do have a car we built too that people can rent and we can
nice.
do some instruction in for that too. So I only have one car right now, but I want a fleet. It's like the goal. So I'm trying to
Nice.
work on that. But our next goal for next year is we are wanting to get, because we have had a lot of requests to do the advanced driving school. So now like the next level, we just wanted to see how this went though.
Yeah.
But next level would be more advanced techniques like heel towing into a corner and the whole downshifting and making sure rev match like into that. So
Nice.
but it's so fun because you do get all walks. You get the people who want to come in and they're just like, I just want to do this for a day, just one
Yeah.
time, say I did it, take my brand new Ferrari out, and I'm good. And then you got the other people who like, I want to be the next Formula One driver, so like help me get to the
Right.
basis, and then it's so interesting, but everybody always has that base love for it, and I think that's the overall great part about it, and just seeing where people are and how good people and talent is there. Like I will see there's some kind of talent that you'll see in people and you're like you could do well in this industry, and then there's some people like bowling might be for you like just
Bowling. I love that. Okay, so here's the question then, because you said your husband saw something in you right off the bat, right? Like you might actually be good at this. And then you're now seeing that in other people. What are the signs? Like what are those things that you're like, yeah, you might have this?
I think for
Can you put
me
your
like
finger on
seeing
it
some
or
I kind of can. I can in a car. It's like reaction time and the way they look at a corner. There's something about it, like the way they'll handle the car and
Yeah.
react to something, how the car drives, and it's the way they'll take a corner, and you can tell in their brain something because like we were both like you said, problem solvers and analytical. Like I am, and so it's like how can I take a tenth off this corner and just by accelerating and you can see it in people the way they drive a car. And then there's this other people that's like foot to the floor, don't care, go 100 miles a corner. I'm like we're gonna go off the track. You really need to slow down. Like there is no comprehension of like the physics, so that's where that like a little bit of like,
Yeah.
but I think with my husband, he actually said my no fear was kind of where he was like, you might do well in this because I just like would do things, and I think it was just because I was naive and really didn't understand the physics.
Yeah.
But
Yes. You're like, you're fearless. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just naive and stupid. And
yeah, maybe just a little dim-witted what will actually happen if I do this. But like I was like, oh, because when I got my first time trial license, I was down to the final, like an instructor comes in your card and like mark you off so you can start doing time trials racing. And I totally went off and went in the mud. And we went like way out, the car like spun and everything. I'm like, oopsie. I'm like, can I still get my license? But he like apparently was like, you were so good at everything else, it's fine. But I just had to push it. But I did get it, and I will admit I've done better. Like I definitely I have a good coach. My husband is actually really good at it too. So he's never wanted to have he was always against having a wife who would be like he didn't want me to be like the oh my car, but she races, but she's really like you look, you're cute, just stay back there. It doesn't matter what times you get. It was like no, I'm gonna
right.
race with you. I'm gonna be like nipping at your heels, and I'm gonna be competitive.
What's that
Like
like? How do you guys balance that? That was one of the other questions I wanted to ask. So I love that you're answering my questions before I ask them. Like, so you guys, he's racing too. You guys are both racing. You're both competitive. Like, how does
it's
that
hard
work?
sometimes. Um, you know what I love? I will give him, I don't know if it was turned. I don't know if he'd handle it. So he always he's a little bit better than me. It's like anytime we go and race somewhere, I'm always a tenth off or I'm like nipping at his heels. Like it's a tenth, literally a tenth. We have this little thing. We'll travel across the United States and we always go to a go-karting place and we'll go out there and make sure we make their top 10 board of the month. And he'll always be, we do, we like purposely do, we'll be Mr. and Mrs. Kelly and we'll make sure we just rock their board and be like top, just come in.
This is so
And it's
adorable.
but he always gives me by a tenth. It's always a tenth. And so
How
like in the
funny.
cars, and it drives me nuts, but I think he loves it. And I kind of give him a hard time. I'm like, if I beat you, I might have to trade you in. Like, like so I kind of encourages him. But then he loves when I do well. So he's like my biggest competitor, but I always say my biggest cheerleader too. He
That's awesome.
literally loves when I do better and he loves seeing me do good. And he helps me like because I know maybe the tables are turned. I don't know if I'd want to help him to beat me like more. Like if I finally, because I am super competitive. So I was like, I'd have to give him props for always like trying to always help me be faster. He's like, you can take it this way, this corner this way, and you need to be doing this, and you'll go faster. And it's just like, that's really cool that you're doing that because like one of these days,
Yeah,
I will pass you.
I love this. And all this from just the first guy that talked to you on a motorcycle gathering.
Take notes, people. Gas
I love
stations,
it.
say hi.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So we're already winding down close towards the end of this hour. We only have 20 minutes left, and like I feel like we have only scratched the surface on things because we haven't even talked about the fact that you just recently did your first like television thing with Discovery. Can we talk about that? Can you tell everybody what that was all about? Because I don't even know anything about this project, so I'm new to this.
Well, it was kind of one of those random, they were like, we're going to make the show, this Getaway Driver, and they wanted it to be kind of like a Fast and Furious style. So they took this compound. It was a power plant, an abandoned power plant, and they had some pursuers. So they take each driver, you have to find the exit in this power plant. You've never seen it. You've never seen and it's like this huge, how do I say, they had it like all just, there was like gravel roads and structures and fire pits and abandoned cars. So it's like this huge obstacle course. And you're supposed to find this exit, but then at the same time, the caveat, you have these pursuers chasing you.
Okay.
And then you have two other people who are going to be doing the same thing. So each episode was three people, three drivers, and they took top drivers across the United States. We all had to interview for it.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and then whoever can get to it faster. So out of the three, whoever can find the exit.
Like a real life video game.
Yes, and that was exactly what they were trying to do. And so when I got called for it, I may have took a knife to a gunfight because I ended up thinking that like my road course car was like, oh, I'm going to put a sequential in it so I'll be faster, and it ended up kind of being my downfall. But it was a super cool experience, and the one cool part about the whole thing, they never let us know who the superstar was going to be. They actually kept there was a ton of signing NDAs and everything, so they didn't let us know who would be. They wanted a genuine surprise. So it ended up being Michelle Rodriguez from Fast and Furious.
That's
and
amazing.
I literally geeked out. Like I had to call my husband later. I was like, I'm super embarrassed because she came out and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I was like flipping out on camera and I was like, love you. Like I actually did that at some point and I was like, oh my gosh, I did that to Michelle Rodriguez. Like,
I love that. I also love that you're owning that because
she was the nicest person ever. Oh my God. Well, because like, like who hasn't dressed up as Letty on Halloween? Like at least once in your life. Like
okay, well I haven't, but I feel like I also dress like her most of the time. So
she was like the person you wanted to be when you were like watching Fast and Furious. You're like, she's so cool. And then to see her, like, they had it, she would get up, come out of the car. So we all, like, for the first time in a year. And I'm like, I like remember looking at the other contestants, like, oh my God. And I'm like pointing, like it wasn't real.
That's amazing. I absolutely love that.
She was my highlight of the competition. The competition was super great. And all these other great drivers, from all walks of life. So they went and got drag racers and streetcar racers and all
nice.
different. Yeah, so we just kind of want to see who would handle the pressure the best, and
yeah,
it was very interesting. A lot of cars got demolished though in the show.
Did you get demolished? That's good.
But
you didn't win though, huh?
No,
That's
but
right.
I will admit, like the way that cars were getting destroyed, I don't regret not winning because everybody was really getting there. And for me, and I'm sure you can relate to this, when you put so many hours and stuff into something, it was like, I don't know if it's worth it. Like it's hard to see my car get beat up. Like
yeah, no, absolutely. And TV, right? Like the drama is they're angling it for that. So it's set up where the odds are stacked in favor of it being destroyed. So
but it was experience with the TV thing too, I've definitely been on like YouTube channels and stuff and like little stuff, but it's not until you have like huge cameras like in your face, like right here. And you're like, oh hey.
Did you like it? Not like it? You think it's something you'd want to do again?
I definitely would do it again because it was kind of fun. I was like, oh, I like this more than I thought. I definitely never thought I would be a person. I can say like anything, I think you get used to it because I could say the first time I got on, I was just like deer in headlights again. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, it's like you forget your name and everything else. You're just, what is that about? Like the lens gets in your face and you're just like,
I don't know, but you are not alone. We joke about this all the time. We interview women at the shop when they come out for the all-female build all the time. And at the beginning, we interviewed every single woman and had them, say to camera just like what their name was and what they did professionally. And you would think that those would be the two simplest answers. And the number of times it's like some of the most dynamic, largest, intense personalities, the camera comes on and they're like, what's my name? Where do I live? Like they forget. It's amazing. There's something about like, it's the camera. It's weird.
Over time, though, I did notice it gets better, though. I definitely can say over time, I'm like, okay, I feel more comfortable. Yeah, but those first couple times, like, they want us to send in videos. Like, they're like, okay, send in. And I, like, sat there, and I remember, it's like, I'd ask my husband, like, can you help me film this, And you turn on the camera, and I just like, and he's like, are you okay? I'm like, like.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to know that you go through, but did you go through it your first time, like, when you got into it?
Kind of, sort of. Even all these years later, I every once in a while will go through that in different settings. But for the most part, I think because I started teaching before I started doing TV. So I just had to trick myself into thinking that the camera was one of my students. So just like, all right, this is just somebody I'm teaching and I'm explaining to them what a differential is. And that's what I need to do is just talk to the camera. And so I think that helped. It came somewhat more naturally to me, but I still every once in a while, 10 years in doing this, there's still certain settings or situations where I'm like,
Right? I did do something like recently, like a little camera thing and How I Met Ronnie. And it was funny, there was a point where everybody turned around to watch the one thing that was getting filmed on, and it was like 10 people and they all just kind of got quiet and looked over and I'm like, okay, like, I went through it, but in the back of my head for a moment, I was like, does everybody have to stand around and watch this? Like, this is awkward. Like,
yeah. It's part of the challenge. It's your
Mm-hmm.
hazing.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask, you've done a ton of things, whether it's being on TV, getting on the racetrack, getting on a motorcycle for the first time, going down to the corner at the end of your block in high school and saying, hey, I'm here, teach me, starting a business. You've done a ton of things that I think most people would say, holy crap, that's terrifying. You must be so fearless, right? And I know we joked about maybe more naive than fearless, but do you feel like these are things that intimidated and scared you and you found some way to overpower that? Or is it like, tell me what your reaction there is.
You brought it up because that is one of the number one things I tell people who actually come to me and they're like, how did you become a better driver? And I literally say, I called it like acclimation of fear. You literally have to teach yourself to get it. There's like this one spot that you'll hit on everything you do, right? And driving's a big one for me. I didn't see myself become a better driver until those couple moments when there was like a turn I was only going 50 into it and everybody else was going 60, and it's like you have to physically make yourself, and my foot would shake on the pedal. I remember the first time I did the first thing, I was so scared, and my leg, like, your body naturally goes against you and just like, no. But the moment you get past that, then it gets easier, and then that starts to go away. And then I think racing actually helped me in my personal life with that, and then other back and forth, because then when you start mentally making yourself be like, okay, I got through that, I can do this again. Like, just get through that initial where your hands shake and everything and just keep practicing it, and it gets easier. Because I will say I am scared all the time about it all. I like want to throw up. Like before the Discovery Channel, it was a nervous wreck. Like, and my husband's like, you're so confident, you're fine. I'm like, yeah, but I'm so nervous. Like, what if I say something stupid?
Or say, I love you.
I know, but like, it's just, I think it's reminding yourself that like you become so much better. Like, you grow every time you go past something you're scared of, even if your hands naturally shake at it and stuff. Like, my husband, random, sorry, now I feel like I'm bragging. We're skydivers. Like,
okay, maybe you are bragging. No, I'm kidding.
yeah,
I'm kidding.
But every time wanted to puke. Every single time that door would come open, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. But my husband's always like, you got to get out there. But then the moment I got out into the sky, I was like, all right, not so bad. Like, this was great. But it would still get in, fly back up, and be like, oh, okay, my hands are like shit. But I love the aftermath. Like, so what you were describing, like, after you challenge yourself like that, it's kind of like with the cars, like the car project. By the end, after you do it, like, oh, I'm a superhero. I did that. I'm so much like, once you combat that. I don't know the word, conquer for that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think great points, like just doing it, right? Because people ask all the time, how do I get over the fear? Like you don't necessarily get over the fear. You just do it anyway, right? Like you just do it anyway.
Yeah, I think Nike's onto something. Just do it.
Right? We're kind of applying it in a slightly different way, but yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those, I can say it really, really makes you, I think and then it gives you, builds your confidence, right? Like anytime you do something like that, then your confidence just slowly, gradually gets better. And then you just like, yeah, I got this. It's just like learning the car thing. Like the first time I plug in something, I'm like, I got this. Like, and then I'll start doing more. And I think it's the basis for everything, honestly. It's like overcoming your fear for it.
Do you feel like that's something that you learned young as a child with your family? I mean, you also went and lived and traveled the world for what you said 4 years. Like that's something that would terrify most people. So you like clearly had a little of that. I'm gonna lean into the fear way early on. Any idea where that came from, or?
Some, I think I've just been an adrenaline junkie. I will say that, but also my wanting to learn. I've just been like I've always like a jack of all trades thing. It's like I want to learn, but I'm like the curious George. Like I just want to know. I just want to know what that's like. And I think sometimes my curiosity almost overpowered the fear. I didn't even think about. Again, maybe naive because like going to another country at the time didn't even think anything of it. Then I get there with the suitcase closed, and first country South Korea, no friends, no family in the middle of this country. I show up, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is like, my family's like in an 18-hour difference time zone. Like, I'm a day ahead of them.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
sleeping right now. Like, I know nobody. I do not speak Hangul. Like, what am I doing?
That's incredible. Absolutely amazing. And I love, love, love that the curiosity overpowers the fear. Like that's so succinctly, beautifully. I think that's what it is for a lot of people. Like I want to know badly enough that I'm willing to do this thing that scares me. I like it.
And yeah, maybe we should make some t-shirts after this.
Yes. All right. No, anybody watching this, you can't steal this idea before we get to it, okay?
Just remember it, yeah, because it really is. And that's where I think like when they say like, and I'll go back to women and men in cars and stuff like that, just it's the curiosity. And I bet you were the same way on why we got into it. I think a lot of people just didn't want to get it. You have to have the curiosity to
Yes.
get into it. And I think that's with anything. If I was curious about rocket science, I probably would have gotten into that, but I never really, it's just like, that's cool. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's 100%. People ask me what I think the most valuable trait is to have to be a successful technician. Is like be curiosity. Like that is the number one most important thing that you can have is being curious and
and you
staying
have to teach
curious.
yourself. Yeah, and it's one of those because you have to teach yourself. It's like you said too, it's constantly learning. The cars are constantly changing and
Yeah, they
keeping
are.
up with all the parts. And I'm just like, wow. And the technology behind it, sometimes I'm like, who's the brilliant person who thought of this? Like, who sat around and really was like, like, it's amazing.
I know. Sometimes I think that I'm reasonably smart, and then I start thinking about the minds that build this stuff that come up with it. And I'm like, wow, okay, I'm not that kind of smart. I can fix it when it's broken. I can diagnose it. I can figure out how it works, I'm not I'm not that kind of smart.
Like when you see stuff like it, even taking a diff, you mentioned a diff. When I take a diff apart, I'm like, who thought of these little cones? Like I'm just like, who set it up? Like I get so I enjoy it so much thinking about the engineering behind it and like
Yeah.
fabrication. And like I want that brain, right?
Yeah.
I just like
And
that
then
is
sometimes
so
we're
cool.
cursing the engineers. We're like, why did you put that bolt going in that direction? Because you totally
Oh
screwed
yes.
me. Yeah.
Yes, they were thinking about it, but they definitely weren't thinking about it. Like there definitely have those moments where like, yep, yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Absolutely. And it
yes.
is always, always changing. Oh my goodness. So it is 8:54. Well, I guess it depends on what time zone you're in. We have 6 minutes left is the translation of what I'm trying to say. We have 6 minutes left. So I know we've touched on a lot of like words of advice and words of inspiration and kind of life lessons, but kind of to wrap it all up, I always like to ask the very last question is if you could talk to a younger you, if you could talk to a little girl or a little boy out there who wants to do what you're doing, any part of what you're doing, what would you say to them if you had that opportunity?
I would say don't doubt yourself at all. If they can do it, you can do it. Like there is no difference. Like that to me, because I think I will say a lot of us do that. We're like, well, I mean, I'm not that I don't have that money or it's nothing. If you have the curiosity and you have the drive, you can do whatever you want and don't doubt yourself.
Amen to that. Even if you don't know now, you will learn it. You will figure it out. I love it.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
that's like
Is
thank you though. I want to thank you for having it was so
Oh
great to chat
gosh,
with you.
absolutely. It was amazing to get to know you. I'm so glad you said yes. We are definitely gonna be talking more offline. How can people find you and support you? And are there things that that everybody should know about to look out for coming from you in the future or near future, I should say?
Tiffany Kelly Racing on Instagram, and if you ever are in Nebraska, our HR Motorsports Driving School. If you ever, and even you, if you ever want to come to Nebraska, we rent a car. I could teach you. Like that would
Well,
be
I don't know.
great.
I don't know that I'm allowed to start racing because I'll get hooked. You know what happens.
True.
I can't
I'll just,
afford another expensive hobby to me.
but I definitely another thing I'm going to be kind of coming in the future. I haven't totally announced it yet, but I'll be building a drift car here because I want to try drifting. So I'm kind of yeah, I want to try different disciplines. So maybe we can try that together. You can give me some
All
ideas on
right,
like
deal.
that. So,
Count
but
me in. That
yeah,
sounds awesome. So
yeah,
everybody make sure you go check out her page, give her a follow, check out her driving school, check out her racing career, give her some love, show her some support, check out her show on Discovery. And yes, make sure you come back next week for another episode of Trades Lady Happy Hour to meet another awesome woman in the trades. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining me and spending
thank
an
you.
hour of your very busy day with me. This was awesome. Hour flew by. I appreciate you, and we will be in touch offline soon. And for everybody else, thanks for joining in and spending part of your evening with me. And until next week, be good to yourselves, be good to one another, and have a great evening.